Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. So, what I wanted to talk today was about the funding of how we're going to go about to create this new civilization, which is established on the regulation. Jesus Christ, on the so. How do you create a society? First of all, we already know that in back in the ancient days of India, you had the kings, and the kings had people that were basically watching over them, that were a spiritual class of brahmanas, so sages, very famous sages, Vishwamitra, or different counselors that became people that would advise the kings. And so, because the kings were not just doing whatever the hell they wanted, like it was like the idea of Arthur and King Arthur and Merlin. It's that same prototype, but this was actually the saintly dynasty prototype. So not only do you have an enlightened king, but he's enlightened by the light of the guru, his guru, who himself is enlightened by the light of God, or his parampara and his basically his transmission. So eventually, the earth, the civilization, the culture becomes the manifestation of a greater awareness into physical reality. And that's how it comes. You actually need people that are on a physical level manifesting the higher intellect. The higher intellect takes time to obtain. It takes connection with the higher consciousness, and that's difficult for. I mean, you cannot do everything, folks. You cannot be the cook, the guy that builds the home, the guy that is doing the everything. Yeah, we split the roles, and so a civilization and a culture becomes what everybody's doing at the same time. But there needs to be a structure. The structure comes in from the spiritual class, or in fact, the spiritual class. We need to define what that is, because historically it hasn't been so. Spiritual class has been synonymous to the priesthood, the clergymen, the imams, and all these other people. But the reality is that the connection with God is what creates a spiritual class. That is, when God interacts with you, you then become the prophet, and you are then the individual that can manifest the will of God into physical reality. And the people that listen to you, they are like the kings of the ancient times, the saintly kings. So I have a plan for us to create. We need to first start getting some funding for this. So I'm going to invite you people to donate via Patreon. It could be something like $4 a month. We're gonna start. We're gonna basically what I'm gonna do in the next year. I'm gonna create a nonprofit organization that's gonna have the purpose of manifesting that particular higher consciousness in physical reality. So let me and this has to be something very simple. It cannot be something complicated. It is definitely not what you see everywhere around you, but it has to follow strictly the recommendations of the Sadgurus and Mahavtar Chief Goraksha Babaji, who he has provided on a recommendation that is public for everybody, and it is that the goal of human life is to reach God. That is the goal of human life. It's not for you to. It's not to make a family. It's not to take care of your old parents. Although all that, those are good things. It's not to fight for your country. It's not neither of those things. It's to seek God. So because that in itself, you need a lot of mental support for people that are born today. They have a lot of karma. They have their peculiarities. They are born into different types of societies. Some societies in this world favor certain behaviors, and these behaviors eventually bring about actions that really are detrimental to a lot of people. And so what we're trying to create is a civilization that is allowing for the human being that's in it to access, to contact God. And how do you do that? Basically, and what I want for us to be able to provide to each other is a place to meditate, where you can go and you can meditate for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 10 years, if you want your entire life. And that civilization provides for you through the understanding of what needs to be done to help you achieve that goal. And together We can this is very easy to understand. But the basis of I mean, the people, the way they will benefit from coming to such a center or such a place is, first and foremost, we're going to be using the Kriya Yoga techniques given by Mahavtar Shiva Goraksha Babaji, which are creme de la creme, the best techniques that have been given in the world. And of course, we will give it only to those people that that are honestly interested in practicing these kriyas. But the center itself will provide the basic things: housing. It's not gonna give you the latest car. It's not gonna give you the fastest internet service. It's not gonna give you the latest cell phone. So through your help, your assistance to to this event, eventually we will buy a piece of land, and it will be non-profit. So it's not me that's going to be the owner, and this will allow for a lot of people to come meditate there at a time, and then to progress. And so this was the original meaning of human society. It was to help a consciousness that has migrated from the animal kingdom to the human kingdom to then go on to Devachan, or perhaps even higher up to the angelic realms, or into God consciousness itself. So it's possible, for and one of the things that I explain to people that I've spoken to about this project about is that the more you need as an individual, the more you need things you don't need. The American saying, buying shit you don't need at prices you can't afford. As that takes place, the more you have these desires in your heart. Let me give you another example. A children that is born in the American society begins to crave things like Disney, Mickey Mouse, Avenger toys, you know, and this Barney and Sesame Street toys, Elmo. He wants a new Elmo. You see, these things really are the basis of this is the interaction between the child that we put him in front of a television and we tell him, look at this TV show. And then he enters into a relationship with that, and then, he lives the reality which is conditioned by what he's seeing. What you see conditions you. In this society, ladies and gentlemen, you have a lot of stuff that conditions you. People are trying to control you constantly. People are trying to change the way you think, the way you behave, with all the methods of control that you can believe in, whether you think of religion, whether you think of education, whether you think of marketing. The human being in its freedom and its potential, the original goal is to reach God. But in that process, people that desired money, they created these products to make more money. I mean, they desired money first to live, to eat, to have a house. But once they had sufficient money with that, it didn't become enough. This is called greed. And the greed then became, it's no longer a matter of having a house, it's the matter of running a business. But then when the business was successful, it wasn't no longer a problem of being successful, it was a problem of expanding. We need more money. You see, folks, so the amount by which society has developed itself, it's like a fungus. It has taken a fractal shape which has developed from an initial point of reference, which is your needs, your basic needs. This is really your necessity. You have your necessity. Folks, do we need iPhones? No. Why do iPhones have become so famous? There's a lot of marketing in it. The Macs have spent a lot of money. The Apple company has spent a lot of money promoting their computers, pulling in every fucking movie that you see. Everybody has a fucking, laptop, MacBook Pro, or whatever bullshit. I myself have a MacBook Pro. I'm also a victim of that marketing. The marketing does work, and so basically, mankind, in the free will system that we have provided for all these repertoires, and then whatever we try to promote things. Let's see, the new Avengers movies is coming up in a week. So what happens then? Then they invest millions and millions in the promotions, in airing this during the Super Bowl, putting a new trailer, paying journalists to write up bullshit stories to hype up. They hype it up. They hype it up. Your children are being born in a society which is not really providing for them to have any sense of inner peace, but rather that the society of today stimulates not the satisfaction of being a human being, but the dissatisfaction that consequently arrives whenever you please your senses. Whenever you're on a neutral basis, and then you have a sensual experience, and then you go back to being yourself, normal. There's this dopamine conditioning that people are into, and so they try to make films or movies more violent, women more sexy, more attractive. Women don't even age well spiritually. It's painful. They're afraid of aging. It's all this fucking nonsense that the society has. It's like they always want to be appealing. It's like, why people are invaded with thoughts that come from desires that have been implanted into them. And so you need, for people to actually benefit from being a human being, first and foremost, when you're born with your amount of karma, you shouldn't die with more karma than you were born. That's a stupid fucking thing to happen. And you realize that happens because a lot of people from the neutral, they're not able to elevate themselves to a higher state of living in which they feel satisfaction at doing absolutely nothing. And this is something that comes to you from persistent meditation and experiencing the higher realms of existence on a constant and a long-term basis. So does the school teach you to do that? Absolutely not. So you have a society which essentially treats mankind, and you can look into the sociology of these things, and really there are demons of dominance that exist within human beings, wherein when you have an experience that has conditioned you, the demon of dominance then tries to cause you to dominate the world to provide again for these experiences. And the desires that are in your heart are most of the time what the Satan, the mind, will use against you to basically take you away from your relationship with God or your inner peace, if you want to, if we want to, So this society that I plan on working to promote is the physical manifestation of what Shambhala kingdom would be for men in whatever dimension is the Shambhala kingdom of Gorakshanat. But from so it's very easy for us to live with each other if people are constantly meditating because they're peaceful people. You're a cooperative person or individual. And the inner peace which soothes your mind makes it such that even though you have desires in your heart, being honest to yourself, the mind isn't able to destroy you or to cause you to err by virtue of an even greater power, which is the God contact that you obtain through meditation. So there is the turbulence of the mind constantly proposing, oh, let me do this, or what should I do for tonight? Or the mind's constant because you want to do something. First of all, you want to do something in your heart. You want to have again an experience of pleasure, an experience of joy. So the mind then starts to fabricate all these disparate, inexact, inaccurate possibilities, but the inner peace that you obtain through a higher state of meditation makes it such that you actually not only exist here, this is you, but you actually exist there as well, where God is. So, and by that, you are in a peaceful situation, in a peaceful state. So this is what humans need to do, and this is what Gorakshanat had provided mankind. He actually even provided the techniques. He not only told you the method to do it, he said, these are the best techniques, by the way. So it really becomes a matter of you doing what he recommended on the basis of your desire to do what he recommended. If you don't desire to do God's will, then your life will reflect, the misery that your mind projects. This is what happens to people, which has, the instability, the spiritual instability of wanting a house. Why do you want a house? Why can't you live in an apartment? No, because I need more space. Oh, you see, so it's, I want more space. So the mind projects, I need something, projects an anxiety. The anxiety doesn't anxiety is almost like a seed that has sprung out to be a tree that is then giving out fruits. Okay, that is the anxiety. It comes from a seed, and that seed is a desire in particular that's not being fulfilled. It could be a desire for inner peace. It could be a desire for anything. So in the dichotomy of you having, I've experienced pleasure before, and now I am at a neutral standpoint. This, not being there does cause for some degree of anxiety. So, uh, so the Gorakshanat has provided a structure. So, in a sense, this the early steps of this is simply it's something that we can apply easily for. And let me give you an example. Let's say we are 10 people that meditate all the time, and first of all, say most of the people in there are vegetarians. We could grow our own vegetables. That's something we can do. We can, if you don't have, if you don't need to eat caviar, if you don't need to eat shrimp, if you don't need to eat lobster, if you don't need to eat sirloin steak, then the expenses of life become, far more. In fact, what even happens is as the more you meditate, the more you and the less stress we bring you, the more you become at peace, and then the more you're able to use just what you need in order to live, and not what people have taught you that you need in order to feel good. So it's the difference. It's living with what you need to live, and living for what you feel you need to get in order to feel good. And this is where mankind is lost. Mankind is not. People have everything they need right now, but they don't have the happiness. And so they're constantly looking for that happiness. They're constantly trying to obtain it by doing stupid things that completely are unrelated. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of suffering comes from. That's where a lot of karma is done. There's a lot of pain that accumulates and that spreads out to the world in that very same process. Classic example is the use of leather products. Why do we need leather products? Why do we need a leather belt made in alligator skin or in ostrich skin? What do you need? So it's the reality of it. It's extremely complicated, but a lot of the pain that's then caused to other nearby species that co-inhabit this planet with us is because we're not able to control ourselves. Okay, so then it started with, well, we need to kill them in order to eat. So then we start killing them to eat them. But then we started doing things with their skin, with their feathers, and then it became, well, let's kill them for the feathers. So you see, there's a lot. The earth in itself has the capacity to provide for us amply enough for us to not to have any problems with hunger. But the problem is that we haven't found a satiate. We have not been able to satiate sufficiently this. I think it's. I don't know if it's the past. What exactly in human nature do we bring other from previous lifetimes that I don't know. Actually, there's some things that I don't have an answer for, but nonetheless. So the basic thing would be to provide for a small group of people a place to come meditate. For example, you could come meditate once every week, or you can spend a 24-hour period with us just meditating, and your whole day would be dedicated to meditation. Or you could take a weekend, or you could take a whole week, or you could take 3 months and then enter into the school that we would provide, wherein on a daily basis you practice techniques and meditations from the Hamsa Yoga Sangha or the Siddhana Kriya Yoga group. So this is why I need your help. I need your help because society needs your help. Human society is built at this time with the greed that has provided for us tremendous technological progress. A lot of development that we have in industrial. If you look at the industries that have allowed for many countries to flourish in prosperity, are also what's going to destroy us, because it's not based on what humans need to live, but on what humans enjoy partially during a period of time, and which is why you need marketing, because you need to do so. We need to promote it beyond what people need. Otherwise, people wouldn't buy it. So they're trying constantly to make to make you want to have these things. So if you have children, you send them to school for 12 years, even more. You send them to school even more to learn things which don't help them achieve any sense of peace, to learn things which they will then forget, and then they will adopt some sort of a job, whatever the hell they do in the future, flipping burgers or doing whatever. It doesn't really matter. Have you taught, and this is an honest question to you that I give to myself as I am a father myself, is have we taught our children to deal with anxiety? What has been done? What is this something that you've given as much a chance? Who is equipped to teach your children that? Is it the school? Is your current school? And you look at it, some kids just to go to school, they are depressed because there's many things in the school system which is completely defunct. It's dead. It's spiritually dead. For example, we learned for 4 years, we learned Latin in my high school, which is the number one high school in the province of Quebec, Canada. Completely useless class, completely useless. And it not only had it no relation to people, but if we would have just replaced that class with a class that teaches children how to meditate and the purpose of meditation and you need to become your inner manager. Your life is really beyond your control. What happens around you, you can't control it, but what happens within you can control it. And that's what school is not teaching, because the teachers don't have that degree of self-control. They don't have it, so they're not going to teach it. But the school system doesn't even recognize these things. So what you're creating is an indoctrination system, which is what our current school system is. And it's where you teach people a certain view of history. Not only a certain view of history, you basically make them waste their time using their memory. Memory is something that is limited. And everything that you learn, eventually you need to replace it with more knowledge. Humans don't accumulate the amount of knowledge they go through in the high school period. They don't. If you don't use it in the future, you lose it. And consequently, having the entire school system built on the process of learning information is the true proof that they have no fucking idea what they're doing from the educational standpoint. And which is why you can have very high scores and really be a stupid person that you cannot even manage basic things in your life, that basically doesn't progress from a spiritual standpoint in your relationship with God, and that later in life you do not manifest a greater sense of inner peace and bring in. Ça fait 14 ans. Parfait, merci beaucoup. So, in a nutshell, we have society wherein we are growing people, and then the children and the people have, by their own process of trial and error, and this is our current society, by the process of trial and error, they attain to, it could be, what typically happens is that you through trial and error, you suffer, you start dating, you learn about the good things and the bad things of just dating anybody, and then you learn, maybe I don't want to be with just anybody, and then you become more selective. You suffered with this type of people. I don't feel like, and so you filter things down. And eventually you think that you know what you want, and you ultimately do not get it, unfortunately, because this is the logical, rational mind. The rational mind does not access to true, complete information. It is deficient. It cannot see the future. Consequently, it's not a good advisor. So unfortunately, this is what the average person has. So that's why they go through trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. Their whole life is trial and fucking error. They don't do anything so they need to have extremely easy jobs, making really stupid decisions. And this is basically what mankind and the economics of today's society is, just that, where you need 10 people to run a business and everybody's doing a very small action, because people aren't able to have a full scale it's how to explain that. It's people today don't have the faculty of dealing with themselves. Consequently, they can't deal with other people either. And the society has developed positions for a lot of different things. And in the big mechanism that society is, all that is fine and good. But unfortunately, we actually also need each other. And somebody needs to bite the bullet. This is what people are not able to do nowadays. In the past, the people that had a greater sense of inner peace by their relationship with God were able to bite the bullet. They were able to suffer for others. Okay, they were able to inspire others by giving them the wisdom of higher suffering, higher trial and error, better wisdom, better guidelines, and then therefore providing it to you people, and then being like, look, this is what happened when we did this. Highly recommend you don't do it. Okay, so that's what I mean. Um, so that being said, these societies, which are in a sense like villages or huts or protected zones, have for a purpose to provide for you the tools to be able to actually live a life where you, by providing for you the minimum that you need, you know, this demands that you become actually responsible. That is the other thing. If you want to be spiritually responsible, then you follow your Sadguru's advice. That is, seek God. If you want to be spiritually responsible, and you know, for people, this is not. I'm not asking people to help us out on Patreon. Uh, in a, I'm not asking anybody. This is not for everybody. We actually don't require the help of everybody. Who we really want to have help from is from people that would use these systems. Those people that have decided to listen to the highest authority on the planet and the greatest yogi, and to actually live in a society that has been built on his principles, and consequently, that will promote for you the best human experience, not only the best life that you will have of all your lives, but the life that will open yourself to the life of others, so that you don't only so you not only exist from a perspective of past, present, future in a linear fashion, but parallel. You will also interact with the lives of people. You will open your heart not only to yourself, to what you've done in the past, but to the people that are around you. And so it's a different method. It's a different type of beingness, but it is possible. And it certainly is the future of mankind, because it has always been. This is not something that we made up or I made up in the past 10 days or whatever. So by the grace of God, this is possible. You know, it's by the grace of God. If God wills that it is the time, then certainly this Patreon endeavor will be successful in providing for a certain group of people. And they, in due turn, from their meditations, they will be able to provide to society their teachings and a greater sense of wholeness and new information for mankind to build its future. So it will be the old world that will build the new world through a small amount of people that are acting with the mindset of the new world. The new world is obviously the world of Babaji Shiva Gorakshanath, is Shambhala, it is the New Jerusalem. And how do we connect these two places? Well, we need to start building up to here. You need to make yourself accessible to that place. You need to live in the mindset of that place, which is the no mind state. You need to live in your heart. You need to live in peace. You need to live in communion with God through meditation and higher awareness. And then not only you will become a beacon of light to the world, but you will resonate what all beacons of light in the world have done ever since always. and that are constantly doing to this day, but that society cannot appreciate in a way that they are able to lead a life which then in due turn transforms them to the same degree. So we have God or Christ that is the leader, and that Christ is acting through a lot of people, but it's very difficult to feel. It's very difficult to do. And today's world, people have too many. The Satan of the mind. It's very distracting, and the technology that we have had in the past 60, 70 years has been a revolution in the industry, but the industry doesn't reflect higher learning. It has reflect greater service providing for needs and needs that we don't have, such as television. You don't have a need for television, folks, even though you may have developed an addiction to it. You don't have a need for the internet. You don't have a need for a telephone. So the reality of the matter is that a lot of people in the world today don't have a TV, they don't have a phone, and they're probably happier than you are. So the way for us to bridge the gap of bringing that new Jerusalem to all of mankind will be through welcoming people and providing for them and telling them, listen, I know life is difficult. Life has many difficult things. We want to provide for you, if you're so willing to take it, the basic needs that you have, so that you will progress yourself through meditation, through contact with divinity, with God, and you will realize God in your heart. And when that happens, then you choose what you want to do next. Perhaps then go to Babaji and tell him, okay, I have reached that goal. What do I do now? Okay. Perhaps then you will have the answer in of itself. It will become obvious to you. Uh, and so that's it. I want to wish you all a very good day. It's going to be Easter this weekend, 21st Sunday. I am right now 33 years of age. This is the time of Easter, so it's a particular time in my life. This is the weekend which represents the death of Christ, of Jesus the Christ, at the age of 33, his crucifixion and his welcoming back into the world. So I am literally at that time in Jesus's life, almost to the day wherein he was jailed, and then he was tortured and then crucified. So society has, and we are stuck together, folks. Mankind is stuck together with each other. We are stuck together with each other. Even when we hate each other, we are stuck together with each other. But a lot of the different experiences that we then become subject to, that then categorize how we will feel about the future. For example, if you have a bad relation with a particular group of people, and then you become racist or intolerant, or you develop the prejudice, whatever it may be, about this person or this family or this type of people or this job. People hate police officers because they've had bad events, encounters with one police officer. Life in itself has a conditioning effect on you, and by doing so, conditions you to see the world differently in the future, as from where you were seeing it when you were a child. Back then, when you were seeing things as they were. But unfortunately, a lot of things happened since then, and today you carry deep in the subtleties of your heart, a lot of, in your chakras, you carry around certain things which you just cannot obviate. They are a part of you now, and you need to find the purity within, which is called niranjana, or absolutely pure. You need to find that purity, which is the supreme consciousness, the pure, indifferentiated pure consciousness, which you are in reality. This is what Gorakshanath was telling people. You need to meditate to know who you are in reality, because you have been conditioned. This is a call to people. People, you are in a slumber state. You have been conditioned. You no longer have the freedom that you used to have before. It's time to wake up. So, by the grace of my Mahaguru, Gorakshanath, my Sadguru, who is Yogiraj Siddhanath Gurunath, I invite you people to, be part of this effort, whatever the outcome may be. And the first thing that you ought to do is to meditate. It's not even to provide us with money to do that, because we're not waiting for your money to meditate. That's the other thing. From a standpoint, you should have if you want, you have the responsibility to build a society which is for the future. But Gorakshanath did not say that. Gorakshanath said the goal of man's life is to reach God. So whichever temporal other goal you may want to have, you can have it if you want. But ours, as far as this is concerned, will be to meditate. And hopefully we will become so pure that we will be able to give up even that goal to do that place, that school of meditation, and that we will be completely and perpetually in that state of greatest meditation, which only God can provide. Okay, so that being said, the goal of human life, the only purpose of man's sojourn in this world is to seek God. There is a method and there are things that you will achieve when you begin meditating significantly long hours, and it will be that you will transcend the ego personality, and you will begin to provide to people a higher filtrate of information and knowledge, which is not based on your personal experience, but it's your connection with spirit, which then provides the information which you, as a channel for people, do not provide personally, but that spirit is giving to the world through you. So we have to convince the egos of this world through the higher information, the higher rationality, the higher intellect, the higher expressions, the higher sounds. And these people that have been conditioned, they are only accessible through logic, very difficult to reach from an emotional standpoint, very rich, very difficult. They're very rigid. So when you tell them you have been in slumber, you need to wake up, they don't resonate to that. They don't recall who they are previously. Consequently, they cannot resonate, vibrate. They cannot feel the truth when you tell them something. It's like you told somebody, it's difficult, folks, because the mind works in a linear fashion. The other one doesn't. The consciousness doesn't work. It's just aware of already what you're going to feel like in the future. So unfortunately, without the faith in a sense, in the prophecies, in the words of the guru, and without the proper application of the techniques, then you will not be able to begin to experience the world from a different method, in a different fashion, that then proves to you in your ego that God in reality is the one that's in control, and that the earth is a reflection of a hellhole that mankind has deserved through through the different decisions that it has made in the past. As a group consciousness, as a group of people, we have conditioned the future with trauma. So there is suffering, yes, there is, but there is a methodology out of the suffering, like the Buddha discovered for himself. And remember the last words of the Buddha, that they were to you work for your own salvation. This is what every human being ought to do. Okay, folks, wish you all the very best. I will come back with more videos so that we can begin mapping out what exactly we're going to do to allow for ourselves to have a place to meditate, particularly long hours, long periods of time, wherein the basics that we need are covered, and eventually you don't need anything because you have transformed into a body of light, you have attained to immortality, and you are in complete and constant union with God as an avatar.